Action.
All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to this webinar. We're titling it Conscious Commerce. Essentially it's just an ongoing conversation about sustainability in e-commerce. We're joined by a couple panelists and I'm incredibly energized to learn more from them. And just so everyone knows, this meeting will be recorded and shared out afterwards. We have a ton of overseas merchants and folks that wanted to sign up but couldn't make this time slot. So we're happy to do that. This conversation is going to be a bit of a mix of really high-level general questions around sustainability in e-commerce and retail, and also very targeted questions specific to the panelists, their roles, and what they do. So throughout the conversation, feel free to ask questions on the chat. Panelists are encouraged to answer in real time through the chat if they'd like, but regardless, we'll get to your questions at the end. So now I'd like to have each of the panelists introduce themselves, say their name, title, company they work for, and a brief overview of what they do and what the company does. So I'll start with you, Mike.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, so my name is Mike. I'm the Director of Customer Happiness and Experience at Monos. We're a luggage and travel brand and lifestyle brand based in Vancouver, Canada. Company started in 2018. Yeah, so super excited to meet everyone and have this conversation.
Sweet. Philip?
Right on. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you for everyone attending. Philip Axar, founder, CEO of Arka. We focus on branded and unbranded packaging for direct-to-consumer e-commerce businesses. We also work with 3PLs and warehouses to create transparency and traceability on all packaging. There's a sustainability component to that as well, not just from the materials and the manufacturing of packaging, but also how it's governed on the supply chain side. So happy to dive deeper in this discussion.
I love it. Thank you so much for that. So with that, let's just go ahead and get started. I'll just keep asking these questions in the same order of which you all just presented. So really high level, why does sustainability matter in e-commerce? Mike?
Yeah, I think I think it matters everywhere. I think sustainability,
True.
It's, obviously you have to be aware of the environmental impacts that every little thing you do can create. So I think sustainability in your day-to-day, for example, just with your family, just little actions you do can make an impact on the environment. And little actions that overall a lot of people do can make a huge impact, right? Just like in business, how things you change, things you implement, things you process, things that you're consistent with can make a huge change in your business. So I see as business and environment is one and the other.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's pretty cliche, but it's like you want to change the world, you got to start with yourself, right? Kind of piece. So I know that for me, that's exactly something that I like to consider on a day-to-day. But yeah, that bridging that gap between the day-to-day and a business and the environment, I think is totally valid. Philip, how about you?
Yeah, absolutely. To mirror what Mike is saying in the sense that it really does matter everywhere. Specifically within e-commerce, which was the question, right? So that exercise that you can have with your consumers is essentially them voting with their dollars on what they want to see, right? Because they have a choice, right? Consumers have a choice. Everyone's a free agent in terms of like what they're going to buy. I think we saw that in an exaggerated and somewhat divisive manner when it came to like paper straws, for example. But you can take that and essentially layer that onto whether or not you want to work with a specific brand because of how they're displaying themselves or what their ethos is in respect to sustainability. Over 60% according to Accenture, over 60% of consumers are looking for some sort of sustainability component when they are working with a company. So they actually will snoop around. So make sure if something is there that you highlight it. There's more than just altruistic reasons behind it. There are serious capitalistic reasons behind having some sort of display of showing, and not just in terms of like virtue signaling, just in terms of like, here's what our company does, here's what we give it for something. People like getting behind that. And so we're seeing that more and more. I mean, it's less than 10% that actually don't care when just asked, hey, would it matter to you if a company had this? It's a very low figure. Like, and the figure of the other side in terms of people wanting it is only growing with the next generation. So start now.
No, I couldn't agree more. Philip, thank you for that. I think that's something that we've applied here at Loop as well. Just the concept of we've been doing the work in the background, but had never even really truly displayed it like on the website, on landing pages, or even really discussed it. So obviously this webinar is part of that effort, but just in general, having those things on your website or talking about it on social is such an important element of it. So I totally agree. Mike, you just joined us. Thank you. Please give us like a brief overview, name, title, company you work for, and what does your company do?
Awesome. Yeah. Sorry about that. Having some technical issues, but
all good.
Mike Robleski, Director of Strategic Partnerships for EcoCart. And so EcoCart, in short, we help brands create sustainable shopping experiences online, kind of going off what Phil was just saying. But kind of how we do that is by allowing them to calculate the carbon footprint of the shipping and manufacturing of a unique cart order, and then partner them with a certified carbon offset project like forestation, clean water initiative, alternative energy, agriculture to support to actually make those orders carbon neutral.
That's super interesting. Thank you so much. I'll start with you for this next question, Mike. So how do you think about sustainability on a day-to-day perspective? And do you think about it on a day-to-day perspective? And if you don't, do you make time specifically to think about sustainability? Obviously, your business is very targeted, but just wondering how maybe those internal conversations or those planning sessions go.
When you say like day-to-day, do you mean kind of in my life or within work or?
Oh, well, that's an interesting.
I want to hear about your life too.
Yeah, I want to hear about your life too. Talk to me about your life and work.
Well, it's hard not to, when it's like what you do every day has to do with, just being eco-conscious, just from the standpoint of like washing your hands. Like, should I use a paper towel or should I use a rag?
Totally.
And just that like kind of thought process, or like a water bottle, just refilling a water bottle, like super small things like that. Like can actually, if you think about everyone doing it, it adds up over time. But that's the kind of stuff when you work at a company, like EcoCart, for example, it's like all we talk about is like, what can you do? Like, and, how do you start being more sustainable? Just doing one thing every day. If everyone did one thing every day, how can that make a difference? So it's funny, just thinking about your day-to-day life and like the wasteful things that you do, or things you could change that really aren't that difficult. But, I always talk about convenience is the enemy of sustainability. So, it's hard not to sometimes, but those are like a few examples, I guess, when I think about it.
Well, actually, that's an interesting juxtaposition because you just said convenience is the enemy of sustainability, of which I agree perhaps on a day-to-day, but something like EcoCart makes sustainability very convenient. So talk to me a little bit about how EcoCart is implemented into your, the shopping experience.
Yeah, for sure. And that was kind of the goal of, when we started the company. When I think about, our mission statement, it's really, trying to make the fight against climate change simple, affordable, and accessible for everyone. So, it's such a large topic, there's so many different things you can do, change the material makeup for your product, change your supply chain, but what's something, everyone can do, or how do you just start? So that's a lot of things what we'll talk about, helping brands go from 0 to 1 in their sustainability journey by, just understanding what is the carbon footprint of the shipping and of mailing your products and creating your products for your customers, and just the inherent impact on the environment that comes with e-commerce, selling. And so for us, we wanted to make a product that's like, why wouldn't you want to use this? Or like, give me a great reason of why you shouldn't. So from the standpoint of asking customers to make your orders carbon neutral, EcoCart's free to brands. That being said, brands can also pay for the offsets on behalf of their shoppers to say this is a carbon neutral e-commerce shopping experience. So kind of giving them the flexibility for both, but we really just wanted to make it so any brand, big or small, can kind of make an impact and do their part in some way, shape, or form.
That's huge. I love that. Well, Philip, to that avail, you're the founder of a company. So tell me a little bit about what you guys do, sustainable packaging, sort of what inspired that idea and, what inspired your story? What is your story?
Yeah. So, initially the story was just from the standpoint of there has to be an easier way for a brand to be able to get packaging, like democratizing access to custom branded packaging specifically, but also it can seem like sustainable and eco-friendly packaging or sustainable or eco-friendly practices seem to be out of reach for most merchants. It just seems like something like they can't do. That's an initiative that like Procter and Gamble has to put in place. Fake news. I mean, obviously with folks like EcoCart, they can connect to your store and it's one click. Like we are actually moving to Shopify, by the way, Mike. We're moving to Shopify. You guys inspired us to do that because of the fact that it would be so low lift to just connect, so that we can use EcoCart, and now all of the merchants that are going to go through our platform can say, yes, I do want carbon neutral checkout. So there's so many ways that you can make some sort of impact, whether it is the carbon neutral checkout. And I'm speaking from the merchant side. For consumers, there's even more ways, but for merchants, there's the carbon neutral checkout. There's the materials that you choose to use for your own manufacturing of product. And then for the packaging, and that's where we come in. So with Arka, we have like a myriad of different styles that we can provide, whether it's just like a non-virgin plastic, so it's a recycled plastic for the poly mailers, or 100% PCR, which I'm a huge fan of, and I'll get to that in a second. All of our paper is FSC certified from the Forestry Stewardship Council for chain of custody, eco-friendly, sustainable practices for not just the material, but the sourcing of the material and the manufacturing of the end product, which is boxes in this case. For mailers, we have compostable mailers, we have craft honeycomb mailers, and we have 100% PCR. I'm a huge fan of 100% PCR. What that is post-consumer recycled content, like 100%, meaning that the bag that you're buying to put your product in has been recycled to death, literally. It's not going to be recycled again. You can throw it away guilt-free, whereas you know, a lot of people choose to take the compostable route, which we also offer compostable bags. However, I don't want to say it's a misnomer. The misguided concept around compostable is that people think it'll just evaporate into thin air because it's compostable. You have to dispose of it responsibly.
Right.
So don't get too psyched if you're getting something like that. Whereas 100% PCR, yeah, it's plastic, but it's plastic that's been recycled a bajillion times and it's now dead. Just throw it away. It's done. It actually needs to go to landfill now. It's when things could have been recycled, could have been taken through a different process, that it's a shame that something is thrown away. But for PCR, you actually want to be a proponent of that. And so we're trying to change that rhetoric, whereas today it seems like compostable is like the hot thing. But at the end of the day, like good old fashioned paper, which is, you know, biodegradable, is always a good route to take. I feel like I veered off a little bit. Do you want to repeat the question, JP? Like what else did I miss?
No, you're good, man. That was super insightful. I appreciate that. I think it goes back to the convenience piece. Like just because it's branded as a certain thing doesn't necessarily mean you can just throw it away or use it however you see fit. There's some responsibility on the consumer side that is necessary as well. But we just heard from the two of you talking about how you make brands or sustainability easy for brands. And so, Mike, as director of customer happiness, I'm curious from your perspective, like, are you hearing that from your customers? Are you hearing that they want to see more, like very specifically? Do you have an example or any reviews or anything like that where it's like, hey, we're really happy with your brand and what you're doing? Yeah, give me some insight.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's part of the education process as well. So when the company was first founded by 3 founders, they always wanted to make sure and be cautious of the environmental impact of manufacturing, shipping. Make sure that we want to build a product that will last a lifetime, right? That's why we also offer lifetime warranty. So that luggage should stay with you for a lifetime. You should be able to use it, and if anything breaks down, we'll send you replacement parts instead of replacing a luggage for you, right? That's our goal. So it's just like how, like I see Philip has the Patagonia hat. I know Patagonia always has this, I've been reading the book. I know one of the book by the founder, Yvon Chouinard, also inspired us as well. It was Let My People Go Surfing. So he basically said that, Patagonia is the only brand that tells you to buy only one jacket because they want the jacket to last a lifetime for you. The cost of waste, because everything you manufacture, ship, sell, trash, travel with has some sort of environmental impact, whether it's from you or by someone else. So, we do things like, for example, actually, that's why I love about Loop, and I've been actually speaking to one of the product managers at Loop as well, just about implementing a sustainability process within the return exchange. So for example, customers wants to return the product. We're willing to give them an incentive, such as a special refund to keep the product, a special refund or discount that they can't receive anywhere else. So this way it eliminates the transportation. And in return, if they want to keep the luggage or not, they can donate it. They can themselves, but we'll eat up the cost. We'll absorb the cost because we want to make sure we have our responsibility. We're also part of 1% for Planet and Climate Neutral, which actually, what I love about 1% for the Planet is that it does allow you and businesses to balance sustainability with growth goals as well. So I know we always talk about, okay, yeah, we want to grow as a company, want to grow, get to this size, but what's the environmental impact of it, right? So a little bit opposite of EcoCart, we instead we measure our offsets and emissions at the end of every year, and in turn we turn into a dollar value, which we donate back to nonprofit organizations to offset that. So that's, we educate our customers on that process, and in return you do see people get interested, you do see people appreciate that, and that's why people want to, you do see people care. But I do find the challenging bit is that you do have to bring it up to the customers first for them to understand the process, and in turn it does create loyalty and brand awareness as well for you.
No, absolutely. I appreciate everything you said there. I think that was a very intentional aspect of, I think you were talking about Loop's tool workflows, and that was very much so an intentional aspect of that tool, which was just to have the ability to be customizable, right? So certain companies want to treat their returns and exchanges in a specific way. Some want to donate, some want to have those special refunds. And so that flexibility is a big piece of it. So I think that's really cool to hear that that's exactly how you're using it from a sustainability standpoint. So thank you for sharing that. And regarding the education piece, it's actually a really interesting part of this. Philip, is that something that you've seen as part of your day-to-day or your business, right? You were just talking about PCR. That's the first time I've heard of it. Like, are you just out there educating all the time? And if so, what are you doing? And is that a need?
Yeah, I feel like that was the first thing that Mike said, was talking about education piece, and that immediately resonated with me, just because it is something that we need to like evangelize and be like thought leaders on it without being salesy, because at the end it is their choice, man. Like if they want to use like, you know, shitty material that is not going to help the environment at all, if anything it's going to be a detriment to it, that's totally their prerogative. But
right.
Like we're just a distributor in that sense, right? Like we're here to provide access, and consumers can make their own choice. We do try to lean towards the sustainability route, not just because we care about the environment, but because that's going to help their sales. And that's why we're in business in the first place. Like, yes, we all want to make an impact. We want to change the world, but no business is going to succeed unless it is making money. And you will make money if you have a sustainability standpoint for your business. And if you're a B2B for your business's business. So us as a B2B, it's something that they're starting to catch on to more, and it's requiring less. It's requiring less of like a shift change when we're talking to them, and more so, what is the right choice specifically in this category that is like sustainable practice, sustainable packaging, and that's where we need to that's where we need to do a good job of letting them know what's available. And yeah, PCR, like it's new to you, it's new to a lot of people. They just come to the site and they're like, let me get something compostable. And we're saying, are you sure? We can do that, like we can do whatever they want, but it doesn't always make sense. Your question was, am I seeing more and more of like the need for education in respect to sustainability? Yeah, like the short answer is yeah, absolutely. Right. It's a discussion, it's a dialogue. And, you know, not to, shill the company too much, but talk to us about what it is that you're looking for specifically. What is your end goal? Is your end goal just, I want to be a sustainability focused company? Cool. From there, we're going to guide you. We will point you in the direction of folks like EcoCart as well. And right now, I think it's become so important that even right now, and Michael knows this, like pre-integration, we're even getting people asking us if they can handle something like that offline, and we'll allow it. And the EcoCart team has been kind enough to handhold that, but it does require some handholding initially, because it's still fairly new in the eyes of like merchants. It really is like when Gen Z is like closer to our age and older, it's going to be ubiquitous. And I feel like it's already ubiquitous for this cohort of people right now because this is what we focus on. But you know, most of the world out there is not talking in these terms at all. But that'll change.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate that answer. And I think that's an insightful piece regarding the selling the value proposition from a capital standpoint, right? Like the business will be profitable even if you do these things, right? I think there's been a narrative where it's not something that's profitable or something that could drive revenue. I think it's very similar. I think we have sort of those same challenges or opportunities at Loop with returns and revenue retention, right? Like that's like a big piece we want people to understand, right? That there's an added value proposition to your business. Not only is it making people happier because they get to have exactly what they wanted with a correct exchange, but it's also driving more revenue for the business, right? So sort of a mix there, a parallel there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Mike, EcoCart Mike, talk to me a little bit about partnership, right? Talk to me about what is it that you're looking for when you're looking for your partners? What does that look like from your perspective? Is sustainability always at the forefront of your mind? And if so, what are some of maybe like your the boxes you need to check?
Yeah, for sure. So it's definitely important. I think, you know, we'll kind of look at partners in a few different ways, you know, from like the business side of things, you know, it really just comes down to working with like-minded companies and individuals. You know, obviously, you know, sustainability is just at the core of what EcoCart's mission is and kind of what we're trying to do. And, you know, working with other businesses and people who just understand the climate issues that exist today and what we're facing and just are trying to make a difference. And, you know, that could be, you know, like a merchant like June Shine, who's a hard kombucha company. You know, they're carbon neutral already, but they use EcoCart to allow their customers to make their orders climate positive checkout. So their orders, you know, for example, are actually technically positively impacting the planet. Or working with partners like a Loop or an Arka from the standpoint, you know, who have similar minded clients that they also serve, but, you know, sustainability is just at the forefront of their service offerings and what their businesses are kind of how they're operating today. So I think that's just something that's really important to us when we, you know, look at what partners do we want to like serve and like align ourselves with from a business standpoint. But at the same time, our true, you know, like sustainability partners are carbon offset projects that we work with, you know, and that everyone kind of supports. That's really what EcoCart is at the end of the day, is pairing e-commerce businesses with certified global carbon offset projects. You know, so we have a network about 30 of them that we have gone through like triple verification processes to ensure, you know, that our partners purchase the highest quality of carbon credits. But at the end of the day, it's really supporting them so they can protect forestation lands, they can protect clean water initiatives, or create different types of alternative energy or agriculture that, you know, it's kind of people think about is really what they're doing is measuring the amount of carbon that they're sequestering from the environment on an annual basis. And like that's really what is kind of fighting climate change. You know, there's more things you can do, but this is, you know, something on the way to actually being able to measure your impact and understand like how you can make a difference. So they're definitely kind of, you know, the business side of things versus, you know, our sustainability partners, but they kind of do fall hand in hand.
That's huge. I love that. I think that's a really good perspective. That's something we like to say around here is like e-commerce isn't perfect, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it should be hurting the planet, right? How can we support a healthier planet? And it's taking those little baby steps like that, like implementing EcoCart into your Shopify store or having sustainable packaging or joining, you know, 1% for the planet organizations like Monos is joined to make sure that they're doing some good work out there as they try to scale their business. To that avail, I think there might be, I don't know, maybe I'm just projecting, but could there be a perspective of, you know, 1% for the planet? Or Mike, I know you guys are climate neutral certified, right? Like sometimes those processes may be a little intensive or take a lot of effort. Can you share a little bit about that? A, why you joined both of those organizations and those certifications, but B, like, is it an extensive process? Is it fulfilling? What is that like?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess I can get down to the technical. So it's the way I see it's it pushes us to be accountable in ourselves, because what at the end of the year, for example, with climate neutral, what we're doing is we're calculating our emissions, transportation, anything to do with manufacturing, and again, it gives us that carbon emission at the very end, and in terms of the dollar value. So in turn, we donate that amount back to nonprofit organizations and to offset the emissions. I think last year our number was 2,674 metric tons. So that's like driving back and forth from the West Coast to the East Coast of the US, like 2,200 times. So, and then in turn, it also pushes us to improve our manufacturing, find more sustainable ways to manufacture, find more sustainable material. And then at the end of the year, for example, we do that, that carbon emission will be lower. So in turn, the dollar amount is lower as well. So that's how it works. So in turn, I think if you really care and you want to be part of that and you want to push your company to move in that direction, having an organization and working with an organization like that, it does pushes you from a financial perspective as well, and also from operations and manufacturing, logistics, customer service perspective. It basically ties everything all together.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love to hear that. I think that's an interesting way of taking that. And it immediately makes me think more about, Philip, you were talking a little bit about this idea of taking your merchants and really supporting them, right? Or brands that come to you and trying to drive that narrative and support them in a way that makes sense for them. Similar to the question for Mike regarding partnerships, how are you kind of vetting those partners and or brands that approach you, right? Like, do you feel like they need to have a lot of like interest in sustainable packaging, or even if they're slightly interested, like you're willing to work with them and kind of get a package that works for them?
They don't have to be really interested. And in terms of partnerships, Michael had a really nice, kind face, and so we decided to partner up. That's really all it took. No, I mean, we wanted something that was how easy is that shit, right? Like you literally, it's a part of checkout. It's something that you just add to it's not heavy lift. It's a part of a process that you're already going to go through. Like it's a no-brainer for us. But in terms of like partners, there's a lot more people that are coming out there right now. Specifically, I've been talking to someone who might even potentially be an investor of ours, Tyler Williams of Circular. He has like 72,000 SKUs on this marketplace that's supposed to be like the Amazon marketplace, but like the sustainable version of it, where like the brands are vetted before they are able to go on there. Another company is Novi, and I believe their website is like Novi Connect, N-O-V as in Victor I, and they have different like accreditation for companies that want to be sustainable, and they'll get like a full audit of their packaging. Granted, we are a vendor of theirs for secondary, meaning Arka focuses on what you ship the product in. But in terms of the like primary packaging of what something like this might come in, they have a ton of great vendors and manufacturing partners, and they will make sure that all of those facilities, factories, and providers in that like vendor marketplace have gone through some sort of like rigorous and stringent auditing to make sure that you're using someone of value that says that they do what they say they do. So creating an ecosystem for your merchants so that they can succeed, or just having the option there, I think is important. We're all about providing access, but at the end, the choice is theirs. Like we're not going to, wag a finger at them for using like a poly mailer if that's all they can start with or that's all they know. It is like back to what Mike was saying, Mike Wu, about education. Like it really is about education. So I would actually love to use this time as like a call to arms. Like if you want to be a partner of ours, and I'd like to speak on behalf of all of us, if you want to be a partner of ours, let's start with some really great content and some great case studies, so that we can first start with that as a collaboration so that we can educate people that might end up ultimately working with us so that they know what choice they're making or not making, choosing not to make, when it comes to sustainability. And I mean, that's the long and short of it. Like we just want to create a megaphone that attracts the right people so that they want to work with you. and then that option can be available to your customer base.
I love that. I think that's a very interesting way of looking at it. And I think I'll go back now to maybe like a more general question for all panelists to answer. But Mike from EcoCart specifically, let's start by talking about, we've done some really high level overview stuff. I'm just curious maybe now, are there any future state things, any projects right now that you're working on, any initiatives that you're really like working on that really want to discuss today? You're on mute, Mike.
Sorry, I feel like there might be kind of like
All good.
two questions in there in terms of like the future of sustainability versus things that we might be working on, but they can kind of go hand in hand. Something that I think is pretty interesting, or just from a general standpoint, like something that happened last month is the SEC just passed a rule that public companies that do at least $1 billion in revenue now have to start reporting on their carbon footprint. So just thinking about the carbon like measurement and accounting space over the next 5 years, and just how that's might be just something totally new, and that people just have to start learning about, understanding, and tackling. It goes into, all the education pieces that Mike and Philip were talking about. But I think that's something that's like really interesting to think about outside of just, these new companies that are just popping up every day. They're finding new ways to make products or solutions that are better for the environment. EcoCart for us, it's really just making that easier for businesses and making it more automated for businesses. For us, we have, we can just be this fast, simple solution at checkout, but we also have, EcoCart Plus that does a full product lifecycle analysis, things that historically you'd have to go to like large consulting firms or companies and pay tens of thousands of dollars really to like understand that carbon footprint and measurements, but something that we're trying to really democratize so like any business can do that. And understanding like doing a full emissions audit, and that's just based on your product, your suppliers, your manufacturers, things like that. So just how much more deep can we go into the data? How much more access can we get to just make more and more accurate calculations? Just understand the work that we're doing, but also that brands are doing, in terms of how they create their products and create more sustainable supply chains, things like that.
That's huge. Well, and not to put you on the spot here before I move on, but I'm curious to know, like, do you have like a cool case study or example of having done one of those EcoCart Plus like full-blown audits, and like what a business has done then with that data that you've provided them, or even if it's just a theoretical use case, just let me know.
Yeah, actually, one company we work with out of the UK, they're called Hello Print. So they're pretty interesting. They have thousands of products. They actually do, they do print materials. Like if you're a business going, like their number one selling product is flyers, So you can go to Hello Print, say, how many flyers do you need? What type of paper, build your product, like what type of paper do you need? How many? What type of ink do you want to use? Things like that. So we started with them just with like a regular type of EcoCart solution, allowing customers to offset their purchases. But then we started to do a full product lifecycle analysis of all their products, and it's still ongoing because they have so many. But now something that's really interesting that they've now embedded into the customer experience within their website, and this is something that we're now seeing pop up more and more, is most sustainable choice and sustainable options. So now when you're going through their shopping experience, you can pick the type of paper. What's the most sustainable type of paper? And then pick that type of ink for that product. What's the most sustainable type of ink? And then how many? And it's all based on like what supplier that creates that specific product. It could be for business cards, it could be for t-shirts, it could be for all these different options. If you just go to Google Maps today and like look for directions somewhere, Google Maps now shows you what's the most sustainable route. And so it's just interesting to see how you can embed that into the customer experience and how it affects the decision-making process of consumers today. So that was kind of a cool story of going from, you can start to understand, the carbon footprint of your operations, but really, understand who's making the material that you kind of sell today, what that supply chain looks like, and how can you kind of just, going back to the education and experience pieces, like really bring it to the forefront of your business.
That's huge. Thank you for sharing that. That actually, that trickles right into a thought for Mike Wu, is there anything that so a couple of things that exactly the same question I asked him, right? So like, what future state of sustainability are you seeing, and or anything you're currently working on? But he was touching on the customer experience and the journey specifically. So anything along those lines for you for Monos that you're doing, right? You have part of these certifications and all these different pieces and the sustainable material and stuff. Are you implementing different things or working on anything in the background right now?
Yeah, for me personally, I would love to explore the sustainability part of the return process, and I'm working closely with you and your guys' team to just see how we can develop that, understand, and it's actually awesome to see that Loop's product team is actually so passionate about that piece as well, the sustainability part. I really do think there's a lot of opportunities to educate the customers on that, and also in a way bring them back to and keep them as a customer as well. So that's what I want to explore. Overall, our company, I think, grew 500% last year, and we are planning to grow 500% this year as well. So I think it's
Wow, congrats.
awesome. Thank you. Yeah, super exciting, but it's also awesome to see in our meetings that we're staying true to who we are and how we were founded. Not forget about that. I know it's very easy to just let some things go and make a quick buck, but we want to make sure that we still stay true to the organizations we partner with, and also continue to develop, look at different materials, how we can improve our manufacturing process. We're looking at things like handles, wheels made out of recyclable material. We're looking at packaging making out of recycled material. So all of cool stuff happening, and then it takes time, takes labor to discuss that, but it might not even work in the very end. But we are looking to that, so we just want to keep on continuing focus on that, and that's really our ongoing project for the year.
No, I love to hear that. Yeah, definitely the returns experience has so many opportunities, and we're working every day to try to, speed that up and on-ramp that and educate as well. But I actually know somebody who does sustainable packaging, so I don't know, maybe a conversation to be had there.
Totally.
Oh yeah, Philip, that's right. No, I'm just kidding. So Philip, to that avail, you're educating us here right now at PCR, all these different initiatives. Anything you're working on, anything that you're pushing right now that you think is like, next level? Oh, I can't hear you, Philip. Does anyone else hear him?
Nope.
Yeah, we can't hear you, and you're not on mute. That's so weird. Okay, we'll go back. Yeah, sometimes the AirPods just die, and then it just gets completely destroyed. But hold on. Let's see. Yes, no, maybe so.
You hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we can. Thank you.
That's so
That was
weird.
super weird.
I wasn't muted, so I don't know why
Yeah.
it wasn't working. I just refreshed the page.
So-
I spoke about most of it, just in terms of like new product offerings. Up until this point, we've just had the fairly generic styles of packaging be recycled, eco-friendly, FSC certified. Now we've moved to like compostable, PCR, honeycomb craft mailers. Another thing that we're working on, which is powering the back end of a lot of these merchants, is working directly with the 3PLs, the third-party logistics providers that do the pick, pack, and ship of the product. So something that they have been running into issues with is at a high level, just like poor governance on their packaging, but they won't do this is like an interesting problem, but kind of like a nerdy one, not as relevant to like your day-to-day consumer, but on the back end, it's actually like a massive impact where they won't audit, like 3PLs, warehouses will not audit the SKUs that they're carrying at their facility, and thus make an adjustment on the respective packaging that needs to hold those products. And I'm just talking about like stock generic packaging. I'm not necessarily talking about custom branded packaging here. A majority of the packaging that ships products out there comes in a brown box. And that's when we're talking at like scale here, right? So they're not doing an audit when like a new product comes in or old products churn. The packaging stays the same, and they will have pallets of boxes just sitting at a warehouse collecting dust that will ultimately end up in landfill. And those aren't 100% PCR boxes. They should not end up in landfill. They could have been recycled. They could have been used for something else. They could have been they could have avoided ordering them in the first place had they had recognized that a product was at the end of its life cycle at that specific facility, and thus had a better pairing, a better marriage of product to package at that specific facility. We're seeing that as a pretty massive problem, and a product is already in the works for that. So if you're a third-party logistics provider and 3PL, Shopify is actually our first client for this. And we've been working with other 3PLs to just make sure that the information about like SKU and package is live and dynamic instead of like the static, spreadsheet somewhere or clipboard somewhere that is holding information on what is being carried at that facility and what they need to order the next time around. We can help 3PLs make better, well-informed decisions when it comes to packaging, and that will pass down to the merchants that use them and ultimately the consumers that buy the product. So we're taking it a step even further back in terms of like our focus. I think we're doing a really great job with direct-to-consumer and the merchants that come to us as a B2B, and now we're like B2B to B2C taking it even further up the supply chain to say, okay, you need to have better governance on your packaging. You were literally wasting so much packaging. You're also having scenarios, sorry, long-winded answer. I'm almost wrapping up. You also have scenarios where because a facility either over-ordered or under-ordered on a specific package, let's say this product ran out of its specific packaging that fits it pretty nicely, it's going to have to graduate to a larger box. That's a bunch of void fill that's going to be considered waste when it's being sent to the client. I don't know about you. I get pretty discouraged when I open up a box and something is like rattling around in the corner in all this excess space. And that's not just in the physical material, it's also in the freight costs of you having to put that on the truck. And if you multiply that and extrapolate that across every warehouse in the United States, like you're seeing a serious problem, right? So our goal is to get into the 3PLs, go further back and deeper into the supply chain, so that everything downstream is just better optimized. That's just something that we've been nerding out about lately, and we found is a pretty big problem that we can solve. We're super excited.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it. Actually, we have a question from the chat, specifically, what is a 3PL? So if you could just share that with us.
I will do it now. Third-party logistics provider, which acts as a warehouse for pick, pack, and ship. So they are the people that get, let's say, this AirPod case in large volume, because this is what you sell online. You send them your product. When you get an order, they'll put this product in a box, close it, put a label on it, send it to your customer on behalf of you. That is a 3PL.
Love it. Thank you. Thanks, as
Catherine.
we're getting to wrap up here on time, perhaps one of the last questions I have is, we've talked about really high level and very specific about sustainability in each of your businesses and in each of your missions. I think what I'm trying to do now is think of it from a new brand, or even an enterprise level, right? That sustainability can be something that's a bit of a daunting experience to get started on. So Mike, from EcoCart's perspective, and I'll ask each of you to answer this, what is maybe like some piece of advice that you may have for a new brand or a brand that's been established that wants to start being more sustainable? How can you get started?
Which Mike?
From EcoCart.
Yeah, so
EcoCart.
I would say, I think a lot of it depends on what type of product you sell, right? Just from that standpoint, like the types of material makeup that exists, and obviously the background of just like how much time you have to figure that out. There's so many different factors that come out to like when you're just starting, so obviously selfishly, when I think about the EcoCart side of things, there's so many business factors to kind of focus on just to make sure you can be there tomorrow. And that's why we wanted to create a solution, just be like, hey, this is just working for you in the back end. And like when you have like more processes set up, when you like have more time to look into the material makeup of your product, when you can figure out who are the best partners for like fulfillment, packaging, your supply chain, operation, things like that.
No, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Mike Wu, regarding you are a brand, right? And so were you around when you all got started? Regardless, do you have any insights on how to do it from a brand perspective?
Yeah, I think I know it can seem very difficult. Maybe looking at on the outside, maybe it can seem or feel that it will be expensive. However, I believe if you truly want to get into it and create a sustainable brand, and do sustainable practices, it will actually live with you after a few months, and it actually becomes part of you. Just like going back to the question about days, you might not. For example, when we eat meat, right? It's we don't know how much environmental impact that meat has on you. The different logistics that has to get here to your plate, right? But if you actually make an adjustment, say, okay, yeah, I'm not going to eat meat, it actually becomes easy. It's like honestly, like I always compare just life and business. It's actually one and the other. It's if you choose to live it within your business, it actually becomes very easy. And then actually, you just have to commit to it. That's really my suggestion. It's really don't fear it. It's going to become part of you, and yeah, it's just gonna become part of how you look for suppliers, how you work with suppliers, how you look for partners, how you manufacture, how you develop in your management meetings, how you talk to your staff as well.
I love it. Thank you. Appreciate that insight. I think, Philip, you've answered this in a number of ways, but I just wonder if you have even more insight on how to get started. What are some of your tips or pieces of advice for any brand or partner that wants to kind of start their journey?
Talk to providers in the space. Make sure they're creating a dialogue with you in a way that's more informative than salesy. So do your own research, do the work. And if you're an established brand, can I just remind you, you already did like the really hard part, which was start a fucking business. Like now you're just making sure that your business is following practices that has like an endless amount of resources on this thing called the internet. So like no excuses is just my response. Like my response to this is there aren't any excuses. No, it's actually not that daunting. It's just a bit of a shift change. Like you just need to change your perspective for a second on like how you can do things differently. And in a lot of cases, it doesn't necessarily even have to be, the materials of the packaging or the materials of the product. It can be something as small as like offering remote work, because you don't want people to like commute. And there's like there's so many ways. Like if you literally just Googled like how do I make my company more eco-friendly, that's like one of the first things that comes up. There's always something small. Nothing is too small. It all adds up if everybody's doing their part in some fashion, right? And I don't want to say that from like a soapbox. I'm just saying that in the like, dude, do the right thing. There's some really low lift ways that you can make a difference. So just do it. Yeah, that's the long and short of it.
No, I love it. Thank you so much. I think those are about all the questions I had. So I'd like to just go around the room and maybe discuss things that maybe I have missed, right? Or something that you really wanted to discuss, or an initiative you want to share, or anything you want to plug. So Mike, EcoCart, let me know anything I might have missed that you wanted to talk about today.
No, I'm sorry for cutting out earlier. I think
you're good. You're good.
This was a really fun like conversation to be a part of, just for being in this space for however long, and working with like-minded companies. From our side, it's just the EcoCart side. It's really just helping businesses understand more about like themselves and their product and their carbon footprint, and then what they can do about it, whether it's like I said, from 0 to 1, just starting and having a free solution on your site, to a full-blown like life cycle analysis of your product, material makeup, and supplier surveys, with like more in-depth solutions for like larger enterprise businesses or any business. So it's really just kind of being there to support brands however we can on whatever part of their sustainability journey they're at, and whether that's working with EcoCart or another company that we work with that might be able to support them in a different way.
I love that. Well, I'll have a quick follow-up then. Is do you ever get any feedback? And I'm just curious, like, oh my gosh, I had no idea how much carbon this was creating, or wow, this is offsetting so much carbon now because of EcoCart. Like any feedback like that?
Yeah, what's funny, it's more so like in this, especially in our early on conversations, like, do you know what Like it means to be carbon neutral. Or like, do you know what a carbon offset is? Like all those commercials you see where Amazon or X like Fortune 100 company is going to be carbon neutral by like 2030, 2040. It's like, do you know what that means?
Right.
And like that's like kind of something that's like pretty interesting. It's like, or just the fact that, hey, like last mile delivery is a huge environmental issue, just exists in the world today. Like e-commerce is, you know, going back to that like, you know, convenience is the enemy of sustainability. Like 24-hour delivery is not going anywhere, and I'm not going to die on that hill, like, because I also love 24-hour delivery, but there's like a lot of inherent like, you know, problems. So it's just, how can we, you know, kind of like just address that they exist and that it is an issue, but like, and then what can we do to kind of make it better and create a better experience like from there. So I think that that's where it's like pretty interesting, is just looking back to that education piece and how much, like, not assuming everyone already knows like what this means, or like that they do, like that they understand their carbon footprint, because it's just not true for the majority of businesses that exist.
No, I love that. I think that's super insightful. Again, something that I think we try to think about at Loop, especially when, you know, we have a case study like Mike talking about sustainability regarding the returns process and stuff. So I think that education piece is super, super important. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, Mike Wu, specifically, same thing. Anything that you really were like, oh, I can't wait to talk about this today, and JP did not ask me, I don't know why, or anything you'd like to plug or promote?
No, I think we covered everything. I'm actually super passionate about your guys' platform for returns. I think there's a huge opportunity there. I was just at education, and I think we had a great conversation. It's you know, we always want to be a brand that educate our customers as well, and just have people to have that conversation, be able to have customers have that conversation with us as well. So, you know, we love talking about things. It's it makes that experience extra special for them, I think, and really creates brand loyalty, which is what we're all about. You know, we don't really want, even if you don't like our products, for example, because it doesn't suit you, you know, maybe you want like Ramola or something. But we want you to love our brand and who we are as people. So that's yeah, and that's what we strive for.
I love that. That's seems like a very holistic sort of view and way of looking at your product, right? It's beyond the product. It's really the whole brand and the entire experience. So super cool to hear that. Appreciate the insights and everything we talked about today. Philip, same thing for you. Anything you were like, man, I really want to talk about this, or that you'd like to plug? Oh, we just lost your video.
Got booted.
Oh, it's coming in and out. Let's give him 10 seconds.
I keep getting booted. Why'd I get booted? You guys are messing with me. You just booted me.
Yeah. I think it was Mike. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. No.
Okay, real quick.
Good opportunity. This is insane. I don't know how this is happening, but there is a poll in the chat if you'd all attendees would like to go ahead and do that.
I think he's back.
Let's see.
I think he's back.
Philip, are you back? This is actually insane. We may have to just end it. I want to give him a chance. Come on, Philip. Well, this might be time to say goodbye. Okay, I think I'm gonna do it. So thank you to all the attendees for your time, and the panelists. Thank you so much for your time as well. I thought that was a super insightful conversation. Again, the recording is going to be shared at the end of this call, so look forward to that. And please look up all these amazing companies, EcoCart, Monos, and obviously Arkas as well. And if you'd like to learn more about our sustainability efforts, please go ahead and visit loopreturns.com/sustainability. Besides that, thank you so much for joining, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Awesome.
Thank
you,
very
everyone.
much.
Thank you.